Welcome to the Debt Matters Podcast, where we help Canadians find solutions to their debt with licensed insolvency trustees from across Canada. I'm Wayne Kay, and coming up in today's show, we're going to talk about the top reasons for declaring bankruptcy. Are some reasons harder to deal with than others? What's the difference between a surface reason and an underlying reason? How can you address some of these underlying factors? What if a person, maybe isn't telling the truth when it comes to money? And what is the top reason for not declaring bankruptcy? My guest today, Derek Chase from Derek Chase & Associates, licensed insolvency trustee serving Vancouver Island, Sunshine Coast of BC, and the North Coast of BC. Thanks for being here, Derek.
Well, hi, Wayne. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Great to have you here. We're going to have a great discussion about declaring bankruptcy, looking at the economic forecasts for our country. I am assuming we're going to see a lot more people in bad financial debts over the next couple of years. What do you feel?
Yeah, I would agree. The squeeze is on. Inflation is there every month. Interest rates keep creeping up, and it's just squeezing people. We see it every day now. So I think it's important for people to know that they're not alone when they're having the feelings that they're having right now, and seeing their budgets just get squeezed more and more. Like it's something that's affecting everyone.
Mm-hmm. Are you starting to see more people calling the office?
Absolutely, yeah. You can't avoid it. It's just no brainer to me. Like you can't walk out of a grocery store without spending $60. It seems like, and it's everywhere, and it's not good. I think the Canadian population is groaning right now under the stress of what's been what our system is at.
I was watching some information, and they were saying that even like places like Walmart are seeing clients whose financial base is 100,000 plus for the first time. They're seeing a lot of people are really stretching their dollars in all economic backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just natural when you see that your dollar's not going as far as it used to, that you start to take action like that. And it's so yes, we are getting more calls, and it's an easier fight to fight that monthly budget when you don't have to pay out hundreds or thousands of dollars each month on your debt. So it's a natural thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd like to ask you, what are some of the top reasons that people declare bankruptcy?
Wayne, over the years, it's been really quite interesting to see all the different reasons that affect people financially. And literally, there's a million different reasons, I'd say, for what can affect your finances. But the federal government tries to keep track of some of the main underlying causes of financial difficulty right across Canada. There's no particular order to these reasons, but some of the big ones that we're told would include gambling. Another one would be substance abuse. And then you get into more personal type settings like health problems are a big one. If all of a sudden you can't work or you're disabled. And certainly relationship changes are another big area where all of a sudden, instead of one household, there's two households, so double the cost on the household and half the income. Those are probably the four bigger areas that I can think of is those four things, and the problems that stem from them really create the debt that people can't sustain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember years ago, there was a bank manager who said probably the top reasons then were relationships and illness and sports, kids' sports. That a lot of parents got into trouble with that. So, and now when you bring up the gambling and drugs and all this kinds of stuff, we're seeing that more and more. So I'm surprised it's actually marked down. But then again, I'm not.
Yeah, the kids' sports, so we do see that as well. I wouldn't put that as
not a top one.
Common as the others I've mentioned, but for sure that is a factor that we've seen come up, or dance or sports and the travel associated with those. But like I say, there's no one top reason. It's a variety of different reasons that can cause your world to all of a sudden have too much debt. So it's and also the demographics as well. It could be a 19, 20-year-old or a 92-year-old. Like it's all throughout life, things can happen that you just don't expect.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that as well. Are there some reasons that are harder to deal with than others?
That's a tough question there, I guess. There can be some really, sad stories that have, especially on the medical side of things, that are difficult and very emotional. And then there can be other situations that are quite confrontational, especially if there's individuals involved as opposed to large corporations. Large corporations, they have a system, they understand a certain amount of their loans will go bad, and it's very faceless in that sense for the most part. But if there's individuals involved in a bankruptcy filing, and it could be family that's loaned money to other, like the son-in-law and the father-in-law or something like that, those can get fairly intense. But I'd say more than 3/4 of the time we're dealing with income tax or the big banks or some other corporate loaner, and so it's thankfully the harder cases are the minority typically.
Now, what about when you start digging into the reasons sometimes? I mean, some of them are very obvious, but you have, surface reasons or underlying reasons. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's something that we try and identify and assist with in the financial counseling aspect of a bankruptcy filing. There's 2 mandatory financial counseling sessions where we try and help people become better at handling their money and dealing with debt in the future. And what we also try and discern in those sessions is, what's the real cause of their financial difficulty? So for instance, someone can come in today and say, Derek, I've lost my job. I can't pay my debts. I need to get protection for my debts. And that's probably true. But is that a surface reason, or is that the underlying reason for the situation? And so, for instance, maybe that person lost their job because they've got some substance abuse that was causing them to either do their work poorly or miss the shift altogether. So if we can peel the onion a little bit and find out what the underlying reason is. And, I mentioned it earlier, it could be gambling, it could be substance abuse, it could be a health problem. Finding that underlying reason is important because the whole process is designed to give the honest but unfortunate person a fresh start. And if you don't want to boomerang around and be in debt in 5 years and right back to the same spot, you want to try and identify this underlying situation and take further steps to address it. And if you can accomplish that, then you've got a way higher chance of success for the future for your finances. So it is important to ask the question to say, what is the cause of your financial difficulty, and is it that cause, or is it something that's a little deeper that's causing you to be spending compulsively or to do something else? It's an interesting thing, and I think some people have really learned a lot about themselves. And if you can have the courage to address that underlying cause, then your whole life in front of you is going to be a little bit better.
I love that you mentioned that you're looking ahead. You're not looking at just getting them out of this one situation, but you don't want them to be in this situation again. You said 5 years down the road. And it does happen sometimes where people get in trouble a couple of times or more. And so it's nice to know that you're looking out for the person for the long haul.
That's the goal for sure. And even during the course of a bankruptcy filing, you're really trying to start to help develop some disciplines or some habits that might carry forward into the future. And if you can do that and avoid maybe just learn from what's happened in the past and develop some of these new disciplines, take the ideas that we think are good ideas about handling money and debt in the future, and you put all that in place, then chances of having success with your finances in the future are quite high, I think.
Mm-hmm. But you have to be honest. You have to actually break down that barrier with people, which is, there's a bit of psychology, I would imagine, on your end to see whether or not, they're actually telling the truth. And how do you get them to be honest?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. And, you talk to people enough and for long enough, you learn how to communicate with them. And I think what we have to be careful about, though, is to recognize that our training is as a chartered accountant and as a licensed insolvency trustee. So, we're not really equipped to help a person with their gambling issue or with their, why are you spending compulsively like that? Or, so what we have is a long list of resources for people that are trained as counselors in those areas. And we provide that to people so that, if one of those underlying causes is touching their life, or maybe it's touching someone's life that's in their close circle that's affecting them, then you can get that specialized counseling and deal with it. And so we just provide them with contacts there and just give them the encouragement to follow through and seek out that counseling. And lots of times people have counseling embedded with their jobs, if they're in a union or in a big corporation, and it's free. So I mean, it's a good thing to take advantage of if that's available, and deal with the underlying factor once and for all.
Yeah. Well, as you said, it sets them up for life. I like the way you phrase that. Just by addressing these issues can literally change everything in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, there's the reasons for declaring bankruptcy. By any chance, do they have a list of reasons not to declare bankruptcy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, certainly there's obviously no need to declare bankruptcy if you have assets and income sufficient to deal with your debts. But I think the reason why a person doesn't declare bankruptcy is really, just that natural instinct to try and hang on. And you could also put pride in there. I think it's important to recognize that this is federal law. So it's available coast to coast. It's something that Parliament has said, hey, this is okay to do when you're in a pickle. So, I mean, to not declare bankruptcy or not even know about it, or maybe, not consider a consumer proposal, I think you're really, you're hurting yourself. And it's important to understand what the law of the land is, and to see that there's these mechanisms that can free up cash flow every month so that you can better deal with your needs of your family. And if you don't do it because you've got, this too much pride or something else that's not letting you even investigate it, then I think you're really putting your family, I don't know, to pay out $700 or $1,000 or $1,500 a month on high interest debt versus all the different things that you could be doing with those resources for your family is, I think it's just wise to know about consumer proposals and bankruptcies.
Yeah. One thing we should mention, we have to mention this, no judgments.
No. Oh gosh, no. It's something that for sure I can speak of in our office, and I would be comfortable to say in all LIT offices that we're treating people the way we would want to be treated, and we have empathy and encouragement. So yeah, life's hard, and so you need to know the things that are there for you if you're in that tough spot.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I think that's just so important for people to realize, because there's so much fear and embarrassment and all these emotions that play into this. So it's great when they reach out and they find this comforting person there who is truly there to help. That's what you're there for. Do you have some final words of advice for us regarding bankruptcy?
Yeah, it's just one tool in the financial toolbox to help your finances be a little bit better. It's a very private process for the most part. And I would just suggest to people that you get all the information that you can before you make big decisions like this. And certainly don't wait. Sooner the better for your finances and for your overall health.
Yeah. Derek, that's a great way to end off this podcast. Thank you so much for your time as always.
My pleasure, Wayne. Have a great day.
Well, my guest today, Derek Chase. You can learn more, schedule that free consultation with Derek Chase & Associates, licensed insolvency trustee, by going to the website bankruptcytrusteebc.ca, bankruptcytrusteebc.ca. And that's it for today's Debt Matters podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts from. And of course, for more information, you can always check out debtmatters.ca. Thanks for listening.